When you hurt an Aries, the universe doesn't just watch. It responds. There's a reason why ancient warriors, bold revolutionaries, and unstoppable pioneers all seem to carry the fire of Aries in their soul. You see, Aries isn't just a zodiac sign, it's a cosmic force. A raw flame that was never meant to be tamed. And when you hurt an Aries, you're not just making an emotional mistake, you're interfering with the energetic balance of the universe itself. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone so fiercely alive, so unapologetically direct, so defiantly honest, that it scared you? That's Aries. They love hard, fight fair, and forgive slowly. But what they never do is forget. Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of war, fire, and raw willpower. This isn't the kind of person you can deceive and walk away from unscathed. They may not seek revenge. They may even move on, seemingly unbothered. But the truth is, Aries doesn't need to retaliate. Because karma does the job for them. In today's journey through astrology's most battle-ready sign, we're revealing 12 profound reasons why hurting an Aries is never without consequence, not because they're petty, but because the universe itself is wired to protect their spirit. Each reason is a lesson, a mirror, a warning. So, if you've ever crossed an Aries, or if you are one, keep watching. This isn't just about Aries. It's about cosmic law, emotional truth, and the price of dictionarying the most fearless heart in the zodiac. Reason 1. Because when you hurt a leader, you disrupt divine order. From the moment an Aries enters the room, you can feel the shift in energy. It's not about arrogance, it's presence. They radiate something ancient. A primal confidence that says, I was born to lead, not follow. They don't need a title. They don't need permission. Aries leads by sheer authenticity. They take charge not because they want power, but because they can't stomach injustice, indecision, or cowardice. So when you hurt an Aries, you're not just hurting a person. You're striking at a soul whose very purpose is to ignite action and awaken courage in others. Think of every real leader you've ever respected, not the loud ones, but the ones who walk their talk. That's Aries. They're the first to take a stand, the first to defend the weak, the first to say what everyone else is afraid to. And here's the spiritual truth. When a soul like that is betrayed, the ripple effect goes beyond the personal. The energy of leadership carries responsibility, and when it's harmed, the universe intervenes. You might think your insult, your betrayal, your dismissal was small. But to Aries, whose identity is rooted in truth and momentum, it's an attack on everything they are. And while they may not lash out right away, don't mistake silence for surrender. Aries retreats not to sulk, but to strategize and evolve. They'll rise. Every time. And when they do, you'll feel it. That same fire you tried to dim will come back stronger, now with direction, purpose, and divine backing. Aries doesn't need revenge because the universe tends to work overtime correcting the scales when one of its warriors is wronged. Ever notice how people who try to suppress Aries often end up facing their own downfall? That's not a coincidence. That's karma moving in silence. Because when you hurt a natural-born leader, you disrupt more than a relationship, you disturb the balance of destiny. And destiny doesn't forgive easily. Reason 2. Because their loyalty isn't just a trait. It's a sacred oath. If you've ever had the rare honor of earning an Aries trust, you've been given something most people never receive, not just loyalty, but a sacred oath of protection, presence, and passion. Aries doesn't hand out their loyalty like candy. It's not something you win overnight with flattery or shallow gestures. It's built over time, forged through action, honesty, and consistency. And once it's given, it's fierce. It's full-bodied. It's absolute. They will defend you when others walk away. They'll show up when you don't even ask. When you're quiet, Aries listens. When you're in danger, Aries charges. When you're doubting yourself, Aries becomes your mirror, showing you the bold, unstoppable version of you that they see so clearly. But here's where it turns. If you ever break that loyalty, if you lie, cheat, betray, or take advantage of them, you won't just lose a friend. You'll lose a protector of your soul. And that loss will echo louder than you can imagine. See, when you hurt an Aries who was loyal to you, the betrayal doesn't just sting. It cuts into the core of who they are. Because Aries doesn't love lightly. Their loyalty is tied to their identity. They saw you as someone worth protecting. They believed in you. And when you shatter that trust, you're not just harming a bond, you're desecrating something sacred. And no, Aries doesn't always scream or explode when they've been betrayed. Sometimes the quietest Aries response is the most dangerous, because when they go silent, when they disappear, that's when karma steps in. Karma doesn't rush. It doesn't need to, but it remembers. You might think Aries has moved on, forgiven, or forgotten. But behind that bold new goal they're chasing, there's still the imprint of what you did, and the universe doesn't let that go unchecked. The energy you poured into betrayal will come back around. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but when it returns with interest. Have you ever noticed that those who betray Aries often find themselves abandoned in their own time of need? That's not revenge. That's divine symmetry. Because Aries may not wish you harm, but the universe will teach you what you failed to learn. Here's the thing that people often misunderstand: Aries might forgive, but they never return. Once loyalty is broken, the door doesn't just close, it locks. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. They gave you everything. They stood beside you when others doubted. And once you've shown them your shadow, they won't beg for your light. This is where karma becomes poetic. The absence of an Aries, that once blazing presence, leaves a void. It's only when they're gone that you realize what their loyalty felt like. The protection, the passion, the fire in your corner. And by then, it's too late. So before you hurt an Aries who's been loyal to you, ask yourself this: can you handle what it feels like to lose the one soul who would have gone to war for you? Because karma doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes, it comes in silence, when you reach for the one who always answered and they're no longer there. Reason 3. Because Aries never forgets. They just don't show you what they remember. There's a dangerous myth about Aries that because they move fast, because they charge ahead, because they seem fine on the surface, they forget. But let me tell you something only those closest to Aries truly understand: they never forget. Ever. You might think you got away with the lie. You might think your betrayal slipped past unnoticed. You might even believe Aries has forgiven you, and maybe they have. But don't confuse forgiveness with forgetfulness. Because with Aries, memory is not passive. It's instinctive. It's emotional. It's etched into their fire like scar tissue that glows beneath the skin. And here's the cosmic truth: Aries doesn't remember just to hold a grudge. They remember so they can protect themselves the next time. They remember because the way you made them feel left a mark on their soul. See, Aries lives with intensity. They don't do lukewarm emotions. They feel fully, so when they're hurt, it doesn't just fade. It lodges itself deep. And the way they process that pain, it's not through dramatic revenge or gossip. It's in the quiet choices they make after you've left the room. They'll stop telling you everything. They'll stop showing up for your victories. They'll stop defending you in conversations you'll never hear. And you won't even know it's happening, because Aries doesn't always announce the shift. But it's happening. The version of themselves they used to give you, that open, radiant, honest, loyal self, is slowly retreating. You've become a name they no longer smile at. A memory laced with warning. And that, my friend, is where karma begins. Because you'll start to notice the loss, not all at once, but in stages. You'll reach out and they'll respond with politeness instead of passion. You'll laugh and they'll smile, but not with their eyes. You'll feel the fire dimming. And eventually, you'll feel cold, not because Aries is cruel, but because the warmth they once gave you has been reallocated to those who deserve it. This is not revenge. This is natural energetic law. And while Aries may not strike back, the universe doesn't let things slide. That pain you caused, it will return. Not out of vengeance, but out of balance. Maybe you'll meet someone who does to you what you once did to Aries. Maybe you'll wonder why people stop trusting you, stop showing up, stop being loyal. It'll hit you like a whisper at first, then a storm. Because karma, like Aries, never forgets. Aries doesn't hold grudges for sport. They hold memories like armor. Not to punish you, but to ensure they're never blindsided again. And when you've shown them who you are, they believe you. They don't revisit the same battlefield twice. So the next time you think you've moved past what you did to an Aries, remember, they may not bring it up, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And neither will the universe. Reason 4, because their confidence is not arrogance. It's sacred fire. There's a special kind of silence that fills the room when a truly confident Aries walks in. Not the kind of confidence that brags. Not the kind that needs validation. But the kind that lives in their bones. The kind that says, I know who I am. I've already survived worse. You see, Aries' confidence isn't performative, it's ancestral. It comes from lifetimes of fighting battles no one saw. It comes from falling down, getting up, and never apologizing for the fire that burns in their soul. And that confidence is a threat to anyone who doesn't know how to hold their own light. So what happens when you try to hurt that confidence? What happens when you humiliate an Aries, diminish their power, challenge their sense of self? You don't just hurt their feelings. You attack the spiritual engine that fuels their entire life. But here's where it gets interesting. Aries doesn't break. Sure, they may flinch. They may go silent. They may even question themselves, for a moment. But Aries isn't wired to stay small. The very thing you tried to crush is what makes them indestructible. Their confidence isn't just belief, it's battle-tested identity. And when someone tries to tear that down, Aries doesn't beg to be seen again. They rebuild, not for you, but for the version of themselves that refuses to die quietly. You think you've wounded them? Watch what happens next. They'll rise, with sharper vision, with higher standards, with a flame that doesn't need anyone's oxygen to burn. And that's when karma begins its work, not with thunder, but with precision. Because when you try to shake the self-worth of someone whose self-worth was earned, not inherited, the universe doesn't let that go unbalanced. You'll start to notice your own confidence shaking. You'll find yourself questioning what once felt certain. You'll feel invisible where you used to feel powerful. That's not a coincidence, it's the mirrored lesson of energy returning to its source. You might even begin to notice people stop listening to you. Doors quietly closing. Opportunities slipping. Why? Because the same vibration you used to harm an Aries' confidence is now turning inward, not as punishment, but as karmic education. The truth is, Aries doesn't need your approval. They never did. But they trusted you with their fire, and when you tried to smother it, you unknowingly challenged a soul that was born to burn brighter than your projections could handle. And here's the part people don't talk about. Aries' confidence, when nurtured, elevates everyone. It's contagious. It's a light that inspires, protects, uplifts. But when you try to dim it, you not only lose that light, you invite shadow into your own life. So if you ever find yourself feeling small in the presence of an Aries, ask yourself, is it their confidence, or your own insecurity speaking? Because hurting an Aries doesn't shrink them, it just reveals your fear of your own potential. And the universe, in all its justice, will make sure you learn how it feels to rebuild from ashes, just like Aries does every time. Reason 5, because when you hurt an Aries, you offend the laws of justice they were born to defend. To truly understand Aries, you have to go beyond the fire, beyond the confidence, beyond the boldness. Beneath all of that is something far more sacred, a deep and unshakable sense of justice. Aries doesn't just care about being right, they care about what's fair, what's honest, what's real. They have an inner compass so strong that when they see injustice, whether it's toward them, someone they love, or even a complete stranger, they can't stay silent. They won't. They'll speak up even if it costs them everything. Aries would rather stand alone in truth than be surrounded by lies in comfort. So what happens when you hurt an Aries? You're not just causing emotional damage. You're violating their core values. You're stepping into the realm of unforgivable, not because Aries is petty, but because justice is spiritual to them. And here's what most people miss. Aries isn't obsessed with revenge. They're not vigilantes. They're guardians of energetic balance. When they act, it's not out of ego, it's because the scales feel off, and they can't rest until something is done about it. If you lie to them, cheat them, steal their time or their dignity, they will remember. But more importantly, the universe remembers too. Because Aries isn't just a zodiac sign. Aries is the soul of cosmic accountability. And when that energy is mistreated, karma takes notes. You might think you got away with it, that Aries moved on, that they didn't notice how unfair you were. But Aries does notice. They just don't always yell. Sometimes, their silence is the most powerful judgment of all. And karma doesn't move loudly, it whispers. It follows the trail of imbalance like smoke follows fire. And when it finds you, it corrects, not with cruelty, but with precision. The same way Aries would have, if they'd chosen to confront you directly. But sometimes they don't have to. Because their belief in justice is so rooted, so aligned with the universe, that they don't need to force balance, the universe handles it for them. You'll feel it. In relationships that fall apart. In jobs that don't respect you. In friendships that mimic the betrayal you once committed. That's not a curse, that's the law. The energetic law Aries lives by, and which you violated when you harmed them. But perhaps the hardest part is this. Aries won't hate you. They won't curse your name. They won't wish you harm. They'll simply walk away, knowing the universe doesn't need them to fight every battle. Because when you hurt someone who is aligned with justice, the consequences are already in motion the moment you cross the line. Aries are protectors, warriors, truth speakers. And when you hurt one, you're not just breaking a heart, you're activating a cosmic rebalancing that no one escapes. Reason 6. Because when you push an Aries, they push back harder. Some people crumble when they're challenged. Some avoid conflict. Some retreat when life tests their strength. But not Aries. When you come at an Aries with betrayal, disrespect, or manipulation, you'd better be prepared for the storm that follows. Because Aries doesn't run. They don't hide. They don't whimper. They stand their ground, and then they push forward. This sign is ruled by Mars for a reason. Mars is the god of war. And war doesn't mean violence, it means courage in chaos. It means staying steady when others scatter. It means having the fire in your chest to look at adversity and say, "You won't break me." So when you hurt an Aries and expect them to fold, that's your first mistake. They may be silent for a moment. They may appear calm. But underneath, the fire is rising. Not for revenge, but for restoration. They won't attack just to hurt you. But they also won't surrender their self-worth, their truth, or their dignity to keep the peace. You see, Aries doesn't just dislike being wronged. They are allergic to injustice. And if you think you can out-stubborn them, think again. This isn't petty defiance. This is soul-level resilience. Their refusal to back down comes from lifetimes of fighting for who they are, especially in a world that often asks people to dim their flame. Aries has learned, sometimes painfully, that if you give in to disrespect once, it becomes a pattern. And Aries doesn't do patterns that strip them of power. When you hurt them, you initiate a war of energy and they will match it, not by lowering themselves, but by rising higher than you thought possible. And karma loves the fighters who stand in truth. That's why people who try to break Aries often find themselves slowly unraveling. It's not a curse. It's a correction. It's the universe rebalancing energy through mirrored struggle. The same defiance you mocked. You'll need it when life turns the mirror on you. The same fire you tried to snuff out. It will show up in your own life as a lesson, not to burn you, but to forge you. Because Aries doesn't just fight back. They rise back. Louder, stronger, sharper. And when they do, it becomes very clear that your attempt to silence them only amplified their voice in the universe. And if you're someone who walks through life-testing boundaries, beware. Because Aries doesn't just defend themselves. They ignite others. Their fire wakes people up. And if you thought hurting them would quiet that fire, all you've really done is give it something to burn. Reason 7. Because hurting an Aries is attacking their sacred freedom. There's one thing you should know before you ever get close to an Aries. They are fiercely, unapologetically independent. Their soul was not born to be controlled, contained, or clipped. And when you try to take that freedom away, even subtly, the consequences are never light. You see, Aries doesn't just like being independent. It's the very essence of who they are. From the time they're young, They move through life with an instinct to carve their own path, to make their own decisions, speak their own truth, and follow the beat of their own internal war drum. They are not afraid of solitude. They're afraid of suffocation. And when you hurt an Aries in a way that makes them feel small, confined, or dependent, you don't just wound their ego. You violate the core of their fire. Whether it's through manipulation, possessiveness, emotional control, or undermining their autonomy, anything that chips away at their self-command ignites a silent rebellion inside them. They might not scream. They might not fight in the moment. But something will shift. Their tone, their eyes, their energy. You'll feel it, a cooling of the warmth you once felt from them. Not because they hate you, but because something inside them has gone into self-protection mode. Their soul knows, freedom is not negotiable. And here's what most people don't expect: Aries won't always argue with you about it. They'll just leave. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. They've already unhooked from the connection. They're already reclaiming what was threatened, their sovereignty. And that's where karma begins to weave its lesson. Because people who hurt Aries by disrespecting their independence often find themselves trapped in dynamics where they feel limited, boxed in, or overlooked. The universe mirrors your actions, not to punish, but to teach. Freedom isn't something you can take from an Aries without cost. Because Aries doesn't just love freedom, they embody it. Their independence is what fuels their creativity, their vision, their courage. When you try to dampen that fire, even out of love or fear of losing them, you're sending a message: I don't trust your power. And Aries never forgets that message. So if you want to be in an Aries life, you must respect their space to grow, to fail, to lead, to learn. Not because they don't love you, but because they can only truly love when they are free. When you try to cage a fire, it dies. But when you honor it, it warms the whole world. Reason 8. Because their energy lights up the room and you'll feel it when it's gone. There's something about Aries that's hard to describe but impossible to ignore. You don't just see them when they walk into a room, you feel them. Their presence is electric. Their laugh carries weight. Their words spark action. Even when they say nothing, it's like the air shifts in their direction. This isn't ego. This is raw, elemental energy, the kind that changes atmospheres. Aries isn't just magnetic. They generate energy. And when you hurt them, especially in a way that dims that natural spark, you don't just hurt a person. You rob the space you share of its fire. Because Aries brings more than passion to your life, they bring momentum, boldness, courage. They're the ones who say let's go when everyone hesitates. The ones who get up when no one else will. When you're around them, you feel more alive, more possible, more brave. But when you betray, suppress, or shame that energy, you break something. At first, you might not notice. Aries may still show up, still smile. But pay attention, the spark is quieter. The laughter doesn't hit the same. The energy feels muted. And then, one day, it's gone. Not in drama, not in flames, just absence, silence, distance. That's what happens when Aries withdraws their energy. And the room, the relationship, the team, the family feels colder because of it. The conversations feel flatter. The motivation thins out. You think it's a coincidence, but it's not. You pushed out the sun, and now you live in shadow. Here's what karma teaches through this. The people who try to silence or shrink Aries often find themselves facing fatigue, emotional, creative, and spiritual. They feel lost without realizing why. They chase excitement, but nothing lights up the way Aries did. And slowly, they understand, you don't realize how much light someone gave you until they stop giving it. You see, Aries doesn't withhold out of punishment. They withdraw to protect their sacred force. Their energy is fuel, and when someone shows they can't handle it with respect, Aries stops pouring it into them. And the absence. That's karma working through contrast. You'll feel what it's like to no longer be in the presence of someone who made the world feel more alive. You'll feel the void, the lack of fire, and it will humble you. Because Aries' energy is a gift. Not everyone is meant to carry it, and even fewer deserve to dim it. So if you ever get the honor of being close to an Aries, protect their spark. Fan it. Celebrate it. Because once it's gone, you'll spend a long time trying to recreate something that only existed because they were willing to share it with you. Reason 9. Because when you hurt an Aries, you threaten the shield they hold over the people they love. Not everyone deserves an Aries. And even fewer deserve the side of Aries that will go to war for you without you even asking. Because here's the truth, Aries doesn't just protect themselves, they protect you. Fiercely. Instinctively. Without hesitation. If they love you, you're not just part of their life, you're under their shield. And that shield, it's not made of metal. It's made of blood loyalty, sleepless nights, quick fists, sharp words, and unconditional defense. Aries will defend your name in rooms you're not even in. They'll show up when no one else does. They'll take the hit if it means you don't have to. But here's where things get sacred. Their protection is spiritual. It's not just about defense, it's about devotion. And when you hurt them, especially after they've stood for you, you don't just break their heart. You betray the warrior who took arrows for you. You wound the protector who absorbed pain so you wouldn't have to. Let that sink in. The person who stood in front of fire for you now feels the burn from you. And Aries, they'll never see you the same again. Not because they're petty, but because once you hurt someone who would have bled for you, you become a danger to their tribe. And Aries doesn't allow threats to linger. They might not scream. They might not confront you. But they will remove you, fast, clean, final. Like a general making battlefield decisions, they'll choose safety over sentiment. And when they do, you'll feel it. Not in drama. In distance. In detachment. In the silence of someone who once shielded you and now shields themselves from you. And karma. Karma doesn't just punish betrayal. It exposes it. You'll find yourself in a moment, one day, where you need someone to show up for you and no one does. Where you reach out for help and silence answers. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. Because Aries protection is rare, and once you lose it, you'll spend years trying to replicate the safety it once gave you. And you won't. Because no one protects like Aries. No one charges into your life and says you're mine to protect with such conviction, such soul, such fire. So if you've ever been blessed enough to be loved by an Aries, to be defended, believed in, stood up for, protect that. Nurture that. Because when you break the heart of someone who stood in front of you like a human shield, you'll learn exactly what it feels like to face the world without one. Reason 10. Because you can break an Aries, but you'll never keep them broken. There's something terrifyingly beautiful about watching an Aries fall apart. Not because they deserve it, but because what rises from that wreckage will leave you speechless. See, Aries doesn't just survive pain, they alchemize it. They don't stay broken. They become something more dangerous, more divine, more alive than before. When you hurt an Aries, you may see the cracks at first. The silence. The stare. The retreat. You'll think you've succeeded, that you've shaken the fire, dimmed the spark, maybe even extinguished it. But Aries isn't wired to stay shattered. They don't live in their wounds. They walk through them. Head first. Teeth clenched. And while they may disappear for a while, don't mistake that as defeat. That is rebirth in progress. Because pain doesn't destroy Aries. It reforges them. Like a blacksmith working molten steel, Aries uses betrayal, heartbreak, and failure to sharpen themselves. They'll grieve, yes. They'll break down. But somewhere in the smoke, something ancient starts to stir, the part of them that remembers who they were before the world tried to tame them. And when they rise, it's not subtle. They come back louder, braver, hungrier. Their eyes hold lightning. Their words cut cleaner. And their fire, oh, that fire now burns with purpose. That's the thing people don't understand. Aries doesn't need a second chance. They become the second chance. And karma. Karma is watching the whole time. Because when you try to break a soul born from fire, the universe steps in. Not to punish you, but to show you what true strength looks like. You'll watch Aries rebuild what you tried to destroy. Not out of spite, but out of destiny. And that will haunt you. You'll remember how you left them. And you'll see where they are now, flourishing, creating, leading, loving better, living louder. And you'll know, you were part of the fire that made them rise. But you will not be part of their future. Aries forgives. But they do not resurrect relationships that tried to bury them. Because once they rebuild, they build stronger walls, tighter circles, higher standards. And once you're out, there is no re-entry. So if you ever think breaking an Aries will get you the upper hand, think again. You're not dealing with a victim. You're dealing with a phoenix. And phoenixes don't just survive fire. They are born from it. Reason 11. Because you can't play games with an Aries, they see you before you move. There's one rule you should remember when dealing with Aries. Don't play games with someone who was born to play with fire. Aries may be impulsive, bold, even impatient. But don't mistake that for foolishness. Behind their straightforward nature lies a powerful radar, a raw, instinctive ability to spot manipulation from the very first move. You see, Aries doesn't operate in shadows. They don't strategize through lies or tiptoe around the truth. They live in clarity. They speak in lightning. And when someone brings deceit into their world, it's like bringing fog into a battlefield. Aries won't tolerate it. They'll slice through it. So when you try to manipulate an Aries with silence, guilt, flattery, gaslighting, triangulation, they sense it before you even finish your sentence. And what's more, they won't play along. They'll call it out. Or worse, they'll walk away without a word, leaving you in the middle of your performance, confused why your script no longer works. That's what makes Aries so dangerous to manipulators. They don't react how manipulators expect. They don't get tangled in drama. They don't fall for the long con. They may burn hot, but their intuition burns hotter. And it's been fine-tuned through betrayal, through mistakes, through learning who not to trust. Try to fool an Aries once, and they'll clock you. Try to fool them twice, and you'll never get that close again. Here's what most people never realize until it's too late. Aries watches before they move. You think you're in control, but they've already scanned your energy, your inconsistencies, your fake kindness. Their body might be in the conversation, but their spirit already knows what's real and what isn't. And karma. Karma doesn't take kindly to those who try to manipulate warriors of light. Because Aries doesn't just protect themselves, they protect truth. When you manipulate them, you're not just crossing a person. You're disrespecting a spiritual force that was built to cut through illusion. And the universe doesn't reward that kind of disrespect. People who play games with Aries often find themselves outplayed by life itself. Suddenly, their own lies turn on them. Their own tactics collapse. Relationships slip. Opportunities vanish. Why? Because Aries didn't need to fight you. The truth fought for them. And here's the kicker, they won't stick around to see your downfall. They won't say I told you so. They'll be too busy living freely, speaking clearly, and vibrating in a reality that no lie can touch. So if you're tempted to twist the truth around an Aries, pause. Because what you're really doing is challenging the clearest mirror you'll ever face. And when that mirror reflects your manipulation back at you, you won't see Aries falling apart. You'll see yourself unraveling, all because you tried to fool someone who came into this world with a flame that burns for what's real. Reason 12. Because Aries knows before you speak, and karma knows because Aries feels it. Here's the part no one talks about enough. Aries' intuition is not just strong, it's borderline psychic. You think they don't know what's going on? That because they're loud, passionate, action-driven, they're somehow less tuned in? That's your first mistake. Because Aries may be fire, but they feel like water. Deep, fast, immediate. They know when something is off before it's ever said aloud. It shows in their eyes, in their silence, in the way their energy shifts mid-conversation, like they just caught the signal your words failed to hide. And here's what you'll never see coming. They don't need proof. They don't need confrontation. They don't even need to wait. Once an Aries feels you're lying, you've already lost them. That's how intuitive they are. Not in a mystical, floating above the clouds way, but in a cellular, instinctual, ancestral way. Their gut is a compass forged through lifetimes of battle and rebirth. They don't guess. They know. They know when your tone is off, when your energy shifts, when your smile hides something. They know who's real and who's wearing a costume. They know what's about to collapse, and often, they walk away before the fall begins. This is why hurting an Aries doesn't just bruise them, it triggers a knowing. A knowing that says, this soul can't be trusted. A knowing that echoes in their dreams, in their breath, in their blood. And once that knowing arrives, Aries detaches. Not because they're scared, but because their soul has already moved into self-preservation. Their fire, guided by divine instinct, refuses to stay where lies grow. And here's where karma weaves its deepest magic. You think Aries overreacted. You think they were too intense, too sensitive, too much. But one day, maybe months or years later, you'll realize they were right. Right about you. Right about the energy. Right about the truth that was hiding behind your carefully crafted image. And in that moment, you won't just remember Aries. You'll remember the feeling of being seen. Truly seen. Before you were ready. That's the karmic sting. Aries doesn't just react, they reveal. They were your mirror. Your warning. Your cosmic test. And when you failed to honor that gift, the gift of being known by someone who felt your truth without needing it explained, the universe began its work. Because Aries doesn't just walk away. They awaken you, and then leave you with the silence to confront who you really are. And that silence, it's not empty. It's filled with every unspoken truth they sensed, and you weren't brave enough to say. Closing, you didn't just hurt an Aries. You awakened the universe. Now that you've heard all 12 reasons, it should be clear. Hurting an Aries isn't just a personal mistake. It's a spiritual disruption. This isn't about astrology cliches. It's not about being too sensitive or too dramatic. It's about energy, integrity, and the ripple effect of betraying someone who was sent to this world as a force of courage, truth, and transformation. When you hurt an Aries, you challenge a leader who was born to inspire. You fracture a loyalty that was deeper than blood. You awaken a memory that never fades. You bruise a confidence that will rebuild stronger than steel. You violate a sacred code of justice that the universe honors. You ignite a spirit that refuses to back down. You shake the foundations of their freedom and watch them reclaim it. You drain a room of light that only they could bring. You betray the guardian who stood between you and harm. You try to break a soul that rises like a phoenix. You test someone who cannot be controlled. And you underestimate a heart that feels the truth before it's even spoken. And when that happens, karma doesn't need your permission to begin. Because Aries is a mirror, a test, a fire that reveals what you are and what you're not ready to become. If you've hurt an Aries, this isn't your condemnation. It's your wake-up call. The universe doesn't punish to destroy. It corrects to align. And the lesson is simple. Do not harm the ones who were sent to awaken you. And if you are the Aries, if these 12 truths feel like pages from your soul, then hear this. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not too fast, too bold, too sensitive. You are exactly what this world needs. And your strength, your fire, your fierce love, your refusal to stay silent, is your gift. Protect it. Honor it. Never apologize for it. Let's talk. Have you ever hurt an Aries and realized it too late? Have you ever been the Aries, the loyal one, the fearless one, the protector, and had someone betray your fire? Share your story below. You never know who needs to read it. Who needs your strength? Who needs your warning? Or your wisdom? And if you felt seen in this video, subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed. Because here, we don't just read horoscopes. We reveal destinies.